Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nara and here we're discussing all things astrology, spirituality, and this video is about Scorpio, Sun, Rising, or Pluto in the first house. So Scorpio, Scorpionic energy. I love Scorpio. So what is Scorpio? Scorpio is a water sign. It belongs to the water element along with Cancer and Pisces. However, all water signs are different from one another. We know that water represents our emotional world, our inner world, and that water signs tend to be emotional, right? However, Scorpio is the least, I would say, emotional out of all. And what do I mean by that? So Scorpio is a fixed sign along with Leo, Taurus, and Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio, right? So these are all fixed signs. What does it mean, fixed nature of the zodiac? So fixed mode of the zodiac means that it's these signs who have fixed mode and they're not quick to change their approach. They're not quick to change their behavior, their thoughts, or themselves unless they want to change themselves. So they're not easily influenced by other people. But when it comes to mutable sign, and out of all water signs, Pisces is the mutable sign, right? So Pisces gets influenced by the environment, by the external forces, but Scorpio is not, and Pisces tends to blend in with other people's emotions, with other people's feelings, thoughts, and stuff like that. But Scorpio, because it's fixed sign, it knows what is my feeling and what is my emotion and what is other people's emotions. And Scorpio doesn't like to get influenced. Actually, Scorpio likes to control their emotions and be in control of their emotional world. And they also like to control other people emotionally. And that's why Scorpio is like the psychologist of the zodiac and the most psychic. Okay, we'll get into this later, but I do want to firstly compare the different water signs and explain their differences and why they are not the same, right? Even though it's the water element. Cancer is ruled by Moon and it's a cardinal sign along with Aries, Libra, and Capricorn. So Cancer is also emotional and intuitive and can be a good psychologist, but actually it's, the better professions for Cancer would be medical field and something to do with relaxation and nurturing and empathetic type of energy. When it comes to Pisces, they're more suitable to become psychologists than Cancers. However, even then, they sometimes get lost in other people's traumas, and sometimes they mistaken them for their own traumas, and then they embody those into their inner world, and sometimes they can't distinguish between their emotions and other people's emotions, which is not the case for Scorpio. So Scorpio is the most suitable to be psychologist, to be honest, because they know what's their shit and what's not their shit. Okay, in terms of like feelings and traumas. Okay, so let's move to more interpretations about Scorpio. So Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, right? And in the old books of astrology, it also says that Mars rules both Aries and Scorpio. But I like to only see Scorpio as being ruled by Pluto rather than Mars, because Pluto gives a better representation of a Scorpio than Mars. Just observing Scorpionic energies, and Pluto represents it better than Mars, definitely. Mars is more suitable for Aries. So what is Pluto? Pluto is the underwater god, okay? It's the underneath, along with Neptune, and Neptune rules Pisces, right? However, these two gods, even though they're not seen, according to the mythical story, even though they were not seen, they were still getting a lot of movements done on the external level. So their energy, the way it impacted the earth and other creatures, was very, very, very influential, regardless of the fact that they were underwater gods, right? So that's that. And then Pluto is very, very transformational. If we are to look at the Pluto in the sky, along with other planets, Pluto moves very slowly. So until it finishes the entire cycle of the orbit, right? Like the 12 house systems and the 12 zodiac signs, it takes almost 300 years for Pluto to finish its cycle through the 12 zodiac signs. So Pluto is not a personal planet, okay? The way moon is or sun is, okay? So Pluto is a planet that rules generations, that rules not only you, but basically affects the entire world on a very large scale, manifestations. The energies from Pluto are impacting the pretty much politics entire time. Whenever we see Pluto move signs, and actually now it just entered the sign of Aquarius. So Pluto is in the first degree in the sign of Aquarius, and we see that banking systems in America are starting to crash. We literally witnessed last week, I believe, on the news, we saw that there were bank runs, that the bank closed down because they didn't have enough money to support, right? And to keep people's money safe and to support their bank. So this kind of stuff happens with Pluto. So whenever Pluto makes changes in the sky, moves an inch or whatever, we experience it, not one individual or two individuals, or it doesn't only play out in the personal life. It usually and more likely to play out on a large scale, on a country's level, world level, economy, okay, stuff like that, like system change, rules and regulations change that pretty much affect the entire population of a country or multiple countries or maybe the entire world, right? So last time we had Pluto change the sign was in 2008, and Pluto entered the sign of Capricorn in 2008. And what happened in 2008? We had a house bubble, right? The market crashed, the real estate market, right? Because of the recession and whatever those guys were doing, the manipulation of money. But did that crisis happen overnight? No. That crisis was basically warming up, and only in 2008 the bubble popped, right? But it was all happening since early 2000s. That's when the manipulations and all of those people got involved, and they started to construct that real estate project that they wanted to do, which was very inefficient the way they did that. They just got money from other countries, and I don't want to get into politics because I study politics, but that was really bad back then. And people were struggling to recover financially. A lot of folks lost their homes because it was, people were getting real estate without even being approved by, credit bureaus, not even having the right, the requirements, not being able to meet their requirements, and they would still get the mortgages. So that was the entire topic, the context of that recession, if you guys didn't know, because I studied politics, and that's a great representation of Pluto energy. So the Pluto basically, it warmed up throughout the early 2000s, and only in 2008, once Pluto entered the sign of Capricorn and was in the first degree, that's when the market crashed. So the same is happening right now. However, it's 2023, and yes, Pluto did change the sign. However, Pluto is not going to stay there for the next 15 years, and usually Pluto stays in a sign anywhere from 10 to 30 years, depending on the season and whatever. But So now Pluto changed the sign. However, it's not going to stay there for the next, 15 or 30 years. It's going to go back to Capricorn. So it's going to only stay in Aquarius for a month or two, I believe. So what does it mean for us? So right now we're seeing just the glimpses of what will happen once the Pluto actually moves into Aquarius for good, which is going to be in 2024, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So that's just Pluto energy. So Pluto energy represents transformation, destruction, sex, rock and roll, money, death, rebirth, occult sciences, occult knowledge, black magic, witchcraft, there's so many things, and Pluto and Scorpio is so deep in energy. You can probably never uncover all of their layers. So Pluto is very transformative, like I said, but Pluto doesn't transform like fast and immediately. For a Pluto to change, meaning Scorpio to change, they gotta go deeper and understand what's actually driving them, what is creating that emotion, what is creating that trigger, what is creating that desire. They have burning desire. What creates that desire to obsess over a certain thing, like over money, depending on where your Pluto is placed, right? In what house. So that will represent the obsession and jealousy you have, okay, in whatever area. And usually Pluto has two sides to it, a dark and a light side. And sometimes people go for darker side more than the light side. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be, and I love the dark energies, trust me. My 8th house, and by the way, Scorpio rules 8th house, right? My 8th house is in Taurus with Moon and Stellium and Black Moon Lilith, and I have a Stellium in the 2nd house of Scorpio with Pluto in the 2nd house. So I know how it works. So I'm very dark. I love dark energies, like horror movies. We usually, whoever has people who have prominent placement in Scorpio, they're not scared of death. Usually, they're not scared to see the blood and surgery and stuff like that. They're darker in that sense, and there's nothing wrong with that. Actually, that if you use dark energy from Pluto in order to acknowledge the fact that you're gonna die someday, and you actually meditate on your death, that's when all of your triggers and all of your emotional obsessions will pretty much go away, and you will have less triggers in life, because pretty much all triggers and all fears stem from the point that the fact that we're going to die one day. But we may be obsessed over our survival, that we won't have enough today, and that's Pluto too. That obsesses, jealousy. Oh, they have more than me, therefore I need to work on my legacy and finances or something so that I become better than them, right? And Pluto is also represents power. It's politics, it's economy, it's large sums of money, it's banking systems, it's shared accounts, it's loans, it's credits, and all of that stuff. So it's a very, very dark, deep, and very transformative energy. But it also has light energies, okay? Meaning that, so if you only get obsessed, which is related to the dark energy, obsessed over something you don't have, and you literally, Scorpio would do anything to get what they want. They will manipulate other people. They will get control over them emotionally. And that's how they feel power in them. Okay, Scorpios, they need to control themselves emotionally and other people emotionally so that other people give them what they want. And it's very likely for Scorpios to actually learn some manipulation techniques and learn psychology in order to human nature, how to deal with people, books like 48 Laws of Power. They like to work on their psychological foundations so that they are in control of their emotions and they can control other people emotionally, because they know that if they control other people emotionally, they can literally make them do whatever Scorpios want. Scorpios are very smart, okay? But that Pluto energy is kind of dark, and that manipulation aspect that I just described is also coming from the dark. And I'm not saying that it's bad. Trust me, I've done it and I still do it, but it gotta be done in moderation, because if you're not careful, Pluto will take you into like darkness, and then you will start identifying yourself as the dark one or as a bad person. And they can even kill people too, if it's, you know, something that they need to do to gain power. This is how badass Scorpio is. And instead of identifying only with the dark, try to identify with the light energy that Pluto has. And Pluto has those light energies by asking yourself, okay, I feel this obsession, but why am I so obsessed over this topic or over this particular area of my life? What is going on? Why am I so fearful if something bad will happen? And that's Pluto energy. Scorpio is constantly there on the lookout of something bad to happen to them, because their instincts are they're so aware, and their, you know, instincts always work so highly, and Pluto doesn't allow them to relax, because they constantly like think, oh my gosh, if I don't obsess over this topic, then, you know, something bad can happen to me, or my security will be jeopardized, or my safety will be jeopardized. And that's why I rather be on the lookout and be kind of dark and suspicious, rather than ask myself, why do I feel this way, and get to the root cause of that belief and understand who you really are, which is not that identification that you created, but who you really are here, which is your soul, and you're here to transform and fulfill your soul's purpose, and do not identify with material things. Because if you get obsessive, remember the example I gave you of the 2008. So Pluto was warming up, right? And then in 2008, it crashed as soon as Pluto entered the sign of Capricorn. So whatever area of your life your Pluto is placed, meaning the house where it's placed, you will have that obsession pretty much constantly. You might not have it every day, but it's always in the back of your mind. Do you understand? So in my personal chart, my Pluto is in the second house, and I obsess over my finances. I like to control people emotionally. And not that it's bad, but I know that it shouldn't be taken too far. You know, understanding people psychologically and having power over them is good. It's not a bad thing. But if you're doing that for the wrong reasons and you're going too far with that energy, guess what? Pluto will start warming you up by getting you even more obsessed with those things, by involving you even more in that darkness. But then will come a time when a Pluto shifts or moves a little bit in the sky, and that's when everything will be taken away from you, so that you learn your lesson, why you did what you did. So you learn a lesson that not to get obsessed and not to identify with the resources, material things, the psychological foundations that you have. Because yes, it is you, but it's not at the same time. You shouldn't be seeing yourself only as that dark. And that's the whole point of Pluto. So if you feel like you, in a certain area of your life, you have that dark, obsessive energy, understand, please, that this is normal. But you should be understanding also why you feel the way you do, and not to act on your compulsions too much. Because yes, Pluto will allow you to manipulate, even steal money or whatever. But once the Pluto shifts, all that time, it will warm you up for a point in your life where you're going to just lose everything. And when you lose everything, only then you're able to renew your identifications, understand yourself on a deeper level, understand who you are, where your motivations are, and why you're here, right? So that's why it takes things away. It's doing that for a good cause, actually. But we as humans, we react to this as something bad that happened in our life, right? But it's good and bad. But according to planets and, super consciousness, universe, it is good for them that you lose stuff, because you were getting obsessed anyways, and you wouldn't have handled whatever you had properly because you were going too far already. And what Pluto does, takes the shit away from you so that you don't get it, and you renew your consciousness, and it takes away your husband or your wife. That's how it can manifest. It takes away, let's say you had a house, car, and everything, then one day just not there. But you can prevent that if you're just being careful, and if you're being conscious as to why you feel the way you feel, and not acting on your impulsive nature too much. Because yes, Pluto will give you a lot, but then it will take away a lot from you if you did not learn your lesson. So it's something to keep in mind with Scorpionic energy, which can be tricky. But Scorpios are great. So let's talk about just Scorpio, because Pluto is a big dude. It's like the big planet that pretty much shifts stuff for a generation, right? And that's why I wanted to take my time and talk about it. It's not like a moon that changes signs every 2 days. Pluto stays in a sign like 30 years, and Scorpio embodies all of those Pluto energies, and has those like personality traits from Pluto. So let's talk about Scorpios. So Scorpios are very, very energetic and fiery, even though they're water signs. So Scorpios usually have those intense feelings and not so much emotions. They might have emotions, but they're not crybabies. If they have an emotion, they want to actually get rid of it pretty fast, and they try to suppress it. That's very, very consistent with Scorpios. And if you do that, again, the Pluto will punish you by bringing up all of those suppressed feelings, and one day just like taking everything away from you. Obviously depending on what kind of area of your life your Pluto is placed in. But just in general, Scorpios are very intuitive. They are literally psychic. Not only intuitive, but psychic. And they are not ruled by their emotions the way Cancers are or Pisces are sometimes. So Scorpios, like when you look at them, and if they have an intense feeling, you will feel it, even though they don't tell you anything, right? But you will still kind of like get a sense of what's going on with them, but not really at the same time. Because Pluto in Scorpio makes it very, very easy to transform, even though it's a fixed sign, but they can only transform if they want so. They will never transform or change if other people tell them to. Okay, so that's the main difference of Scorpio and like Cancer, for instance, and Pisces, right? So Scorpios, they're very secretive. They don't like to tell you everything up front. They don't like to show their emotions either. So they try to hide it, because Pluto was the underwater god, right? So again, it got that aspect from Pluto. Likes to hide, because for Scorpio, they think that if they show their feelings to other people and just say too much, what's going on in their lives, then other people will start controlling them, and they hate that, right? Because they should be in control of themselves only and not other people. So that's why Scorpios can be very secretive. They don't tell you what they're up to. These people are also very in touch with their bodies. Like they're very sensual and sexual. They're like the sexiest of the zodiac, and they love sex. And if we were to look from the profession standpoint, they can be adult entertainers too, and a lot of actresses, I heard like porn stars, they actually have a lot of Scorpionic energy in their charts. I don't know. I don't know what I feel about it. I mean, obviously it's other people's lives, but that is possible, but I don't like it. I feel like it's promiscuous too much. But oh well. I can't tell people how to live, right? So that's that about Pluto. But Scorpio is very good for politics, for power games, for economy. And if we are to look at, presidents of the United States, a lot of them were Scorpios. A lot of CEOs are Scorpios, because that Pluto energy, that power, money, it just like literally makes them obsessed to get it. But again, you can obviously get it, but try to control your obsession, because like I described, Pluto can literally strip everything away from you as well as it gave you. Oh, actually, let's look at the example of Richard Nixon, whom I did my psychological project about. So Richard Nixon had, he had Scorpio in the third house of friends, right? And then he had 10th house of, I don't remember what zodiac sign he has in the midheaven, but he had Pluto in the 10th house. And we know what happened to Richard Nixon, right? He took it too far with Watergate. And see, he conspired, right, with his team members in the White House and other people from FBI, whatever, to put get the Democratic Party the tapes, and so they conspired against. So he hired a bunch of people, and then his entire White House team was involved as well to conspire against Democratic Party, so that Richard Nixon wins another election, gets reelected in the next. It was 1972. And actually, with those manipulations, he did get reelected. But then when Congress started to investigate, they found out that Richard Nixon was involved. Even though he was not caught, his team members were caught first, right, from the White House. But those team members actually snitched on Richard Nixon, and then Richard Nixon gave a hearing. So basically, Richard Nixon is a great representation of what can happen if Pluto, Scorpionic energy, is taken too far. But Scorpios are very sexual, they're very intuitive, they're psychic actually. They can telepathically communicate. They can literally manifest easily. And they're very powerful with their minds, okay? That's like one of the positive traits of Scorpio. And Scorpio in the first house would be very energetic in the way they approach other people, and sometimes they don't even have to say or do anything, but their energy is so intense and energetic, right? It's literally felt by the entire room. And yeah, so like whenever you meet a Scorpio in the first, you will feel that intensity in their aura. These people are very, very fiery in the way they express themselves, but they don't often express themselves. They don't like to show people their true nature. They try to hide and keep things in secret because that allows them to be in control of themselves, because they think that if other people know what's going on with them, they will kind of other people will be in control of Scorpio, and Scorpio doesn't like to control. Doesn't like to be controlled, but rather to control others psychologically. That's why they learn a lot of manipulations and psychological things, and they love to play games and love. So also they're very transformative, but I know they're fixed sign and they don't transform as fast and easily. For them, the transformation has to go deeper, and the transformation only takes place if they want so. Not other people, but only if they want to change, okay? So that's the main difference. Unlike Pisces, which gets influenced by the environment, Scorpio rather influences the environment to change after they've changed themselves. But for them to change, sometimes should be taken away from them. But if you're a smart Scorpio, don't wait for that, but literally change yourself. But the first house Scorpio people, Scorpio rising, they are obsessed with transformation, and they are fast to change their appearances, their hair color, their hairstyle or whatever, the way they dress. They love to experiment, the Scorpio rising people, and they never get tired of it, right? If we are to look at the first house from a physical appearance standpoint, right? So that would mean that these people have usually dark hair, like mine, and they can be a little bit chubbier, but not too much, okay? Like chubbier in a way that they're like have proportions that are more like feminine and more of like the shape of a feminine figure. let me put it this way, pretty much all water signs, the rising water signs have like, they're a little bit overweight. But Scorpio in the first can easily shed some pounds, gain it back, shed some pounds, gain it back. Like I said, is that transformative nature of Pluto, right? Sometimes they can use sex to manipulate other people too. So keep that in mind. So these people, the Scorpio rising, they're not very like outward, out there. You know, they're very like inside of themselves, you know? They don't like to be out there unless they trust those people. They do have trust issues. They don't trust everybody. And they always like have this fear of betrayal, you know, sometimes which is not based in reality. So keep that in mind, especially the transitory planets when they're moving. And sometimes their aspects get affected. And yeah, so you get sense of betrayal, which is not even based on reality. I get that all the time as a Pluto in the second. I think I pretty much covered Scorpio, everything I wanted to say about Scorpio. Please let me know in the comment section below if you like this video and if it resonated. If it didn't, let me know how Scorpio is playing out in your life. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Bye, y'all.